All right, I am so excited to have my very first guest on this show and on this podcast. And this is my good friend, Chris Carpenter. And Chris, rather than just going through a bio of who
Hmm.
you are and your life, which you sent to me, and I'm so grateful for that, I wanted to just do a quick personal intro.
Okay.
And then, there's some things that I want everyone to know about you before we dive in.
Okay.
I met you, if you can believe it, 11 years ago.
I know that went by quick, right?
And that's
Hard to believe.
and that first memory that I have is sitting at a table at a real estate training, looking up to
Hmm.
you as this experienced, seasoned real estate agent, and just thinking like, man, this guy is like my hero, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to catch up to him. And that was a fun
Mm.
memory. And I'm sure that you
Oh,
just saw this overzealous punk kid who was, going crazy. But I really appreciated who you were for me at that time, and we've been able to swap roles, and I've been able to help you in a
hmm.
coaching setting, and now we just
Yes.
get to kind of move together and collaborate and create in life. So I just am so appreciative of who you are. I want the listener and anyone watching this video to understand that I have a deep level of respect for you, and I'm just so grateful that you've you know been open to this
Oh, man.
conversation.
This has been
So
fantastic. So I appreciate the opportunity.
now
Yeah.
you have an incredible background, 16 years in ministry as a youth pastor and a lead pastor in like
Yeah.
three different cities, right?
Yes.
You were a home builder for several years.
Yes.
You've done incredible work in real estate for like what, like 16 years?
Oh, let's see. It is 16, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's been a
it's been a good,
wait. Yeah, you're right. Because
yeah,
it was 2006 to now. So what's that? That's
yeah,
actually even more.
that's 18 years.
18. That's some good math there. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, hasn't seemed that long, but man, it's been that long. Yeah.
Right. And then for the
Hmm.
past few years, you have been pursuing this coaching passion, and you're
Yeah.
getting ready to make a big leap and
Yes.
to make this something that you end up devoting the rest of your life to, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely fits. Probably we can trace it clear back to my pastor days, and it's finally coming to fruition and where we're going now. So yeah,
Well, and then that's the professional side. You have an incredible wife, Melissa, who
I
I've
do.
come to learn to love as well. You
Yeah,
have
she's fantastic.
how many total children between the two of you?
Well, I have two daughters from a previous marriage that
Yep.
are great with 5 grandkids from them, and then two bonus sons. Melissa has two boys that are
Yeah.
just about 15 and 13. So yeah.
So you guys are doing a great work at home,
Hmm.
and you're continuing to pursue things that are really important to you. And I was so appreciative of you this last, just been a week and a half now, coming to the retreat that I hosted with about 20 other individuals.
Hmm.
And during that time, I had put you into some small groups.
Yes.
And as we came back and discussed some of the ahas, somebody shared something that you had shared with that small group that
Hmm.
had a huge impact on them.
Yeah.
And I have been pondering this phrase ever since that moment, and it's
Yeah.
meant a lot to me. And I wanted to unpack this idea so that anyone watching or listening might be able to have a little insight into
Yeah.
what that was. Before we reveal what that
Yeah.
phrase was,
Yeah.
do you remember, and I haven't even asked you this
Yeah.
yet, but do you remember the conversation, the circumstance within that group that brought this up that you shared with them?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share? I mean, you don't have
Sure.
to tell us exactly who it is to keep confidentiality, but yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, we were just discussing, we were a second day group. We were discussing phrases, things, advice we were given that was very life changing.
Right.
And I don't think there's been any greater thing that changed my life than this phrase. And it's because of how it worked into what I was dealing with very deep and internally in my own life and helped me change direction so I could see something different. And so it also, funny enough, as I shared with the group, that was probably the phrase that brought Melissa and I the most together.
Hmm.
And the story, she'd be incredibly embarrassed, but it's the truth. The first time I was at her house and went to her bathroom, I noticed on her mirror, because her and I are alike that way too. We write things to remember.
Yeah.
She had number one on her mirror as this phrase. Is it okay to just say it?
Let's say it.
Okay, it was do not chase. And so, and I had just finished, because we met in a March, and I had just finished putting together my objectives for that year.
Hmm.
And number one on there, still in my journal, was do not chase. And
So you go into her bathroom.
Yeah.
It's actually written on the mirror,
Yeah.
and you're thinking like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
this is a sign. This is as good as it gets.
I know. I was sitting there going, no way. Someone else is living that life too, of making that huge shift from constantly living by the expectations and hopes and dreams of others to fulfill those, to feel good about yourself, to now realizing that I need to open my life in a different way completely. And so when I came out of the bathroom and said, I saw this on your mirror, and then she was all embarrassed of, oh my God, I'm so, yeah. But I was like, that's amazing. That's not an accident. That's part of our journey. So yeah, and it has been since.
So that motto was something you were personally focusing on.
Yes.
You didn't know. At the same time, you guys start dating, and you've kind of been in this journey together now.
Yeah.
And why did you choose at that time in your life to make that motto, that focus for the year?
Okay. For most of my life and through work that I've done with you and other, I've just discovered there's almost a generational belief in my family of not good enough. And I find in myself, I spent most of my life trying to prove to people I'm good enough, whether it be good enough for them, good enough to meet the expectations they believe I should meet. And regardless of how good I was really doing, because I had no exterior measure to really do it, it was all about making sure I was good enough. So in essence, I was constantly chasing affirmation.
Oh, yeah.
And chasing it in a way that really didn't help me. And it didn't help, my kids, because I taught them the same behavior and now working with them to unlearn that. But it was the constant chase of that. And it bled over into other areas of life too, whether it had been a real estate career, chasing. And so it really came to me, whereas I'm going to stop chasing, because there is so much now, I believe, in life that is just waiting for me to be open to it. And by chasing, I think it's safe to say, Andrew, I missed an abundance of things.
Why do you believe it's so easy for people that are driven, achievers? Most of the people listening to this are entrepreneurs, executives, and business owners. Why do you think it's so easy for us to fall into that trap of chasing?
In a sick kind of way, for me, it was validating.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Kind of what I mean?
Yeah.
I could look at the end of the day, and even though I may not have gotten the result I wanted, I could at least say to myself, well, I gave it my best. I got after it, rise and grind, whatever the saying was that we used at that time. And so it was validating to me. The other part of it it fed the illusion a lot, in that if I was checking things off of a list, somehow I was getting more success, and so really the whole thing, it was easy to stay in because it really had a feel good part to it, even though in the end it was also a very destructive, never achieving, because when you're chasing, you really never catch it, is the problem. So because when you do get to this point, you realize, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother point I've got to get to.
Right.
Or if it's a person you're trying to please, so you chase after all those things they want you to do to make them happy, then that you realize when you get that done, well, they're still not happy. So it's still chasing. So yeah, but that process of chasing at least gives you this illusion of progress, and also just that validation of, I'm doing it, I'm a good person, I'm trying hard.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
That validation is real, because we've been conditioned to believe that if we are chasing, then we are succeeding.
Yeah, true.
Which
Agreed.
is so sad, because how many people are chasing either the wrong things, or, as you said, the illusion of what they believe that they want?
I think that's the truth right there.
Yeah,
I think that's the hardest struggle in the not chasing. I think you just hit it. Is for so long, when you chase for so long, personally, I lost complete sight of what it was that I wanted, for myself, in a marriage relationship, as a dad, as a friend, because you're chasing for the validation, you're chasing for the achievement, and you forget completely who you are, because before you know it, without realizing it, you've become something for everyone else, or the objective. Maybe it's not a manipulation of others, it's just the circumstance of what you believe you should be doing. So, but yeah, it was a humbling moment. Let's go with that.
You grew up in Baker City, Oregon.
I did, yes.
I grew up right here in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
Did you grow up hunting?
Yes.
Okay, so I grew up hunting. I don't hunt anymore, but
same.
In French, the word hunt is chasse, and it's chase. It's the word chase.
Yeah.
And so when we're chasing, there's always almost this fun expectation and this excitement. There's an adrenaline, there's all of that goes into it. And I believe that business owners and executives become almost addicted to that chemical hit that comes from being in the chase.
Yeah.
Would you say that you've seen that as well with yourself and those that you worked with as a coach?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of an odd example of this was when I went through my divorce, which is a whole nother story, but went through it.
Right.
I had all of these friends around me suggesting that I needed to get out there and date as many people as possible.
Start chasing.
Yeah, that was exactly it. And I mean, just to validate what you're saying, I think that is the whole perception of them. For me to have a successful transition from one relationship to another, I had to start chasing. And in reality, I found my perfect person by not chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in NLP, we say that when there's negation in a sentence, the unconscious mind can't comprehend it, right? So if we say do not chase, all the unconscious mind hears is chase.
Right.
So what do we do instead? What would you say is the opposite of chasing?
Yeah. Oh no, and that's such a valid point, because I've thought of that many times about
what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we,
yeah.
What
It's
is
just
it?
like, I understand the do not chase. So what is it that I'm really doing? And so the first thing for me was release. Okay, so I couldn't put anything new in until I got rid of everything I'd filled it with, because after, I'm almost 53, so I spent decades chasing. And so I had filled my life with so many things, good things, but a lot of illusions, a lot of things that I didn't really want but had. And so I had to get those out of the way. So there was a lot of release work that was done with counselors. I did with you, and still am doing, to be quiet. I might be doing this a while, but I had to release some things, and then I had to actually redefine, almost some creative work. For instance, I believe the reason Melissa and I met each other is because the person I was working with at that time made me actually sit down and write out, what does your perfect partner look like? And we went over that, not religiously, but just she made me, she made me get it concrete.
Yes.
And so I started filling my life that way, is, okay, this is what I want. And I came up with what I want by really thinking about what it is that brings joy into my life, what it is that I actually feel in alignment with, whether it be morally or, all of those things. And so that I could look at this picture and actually feel good about it, so that now I know when it actually entered my life, I would be completely ready for it. Because when I met Melissa, I was in do not chase. And we only met because a mutual friend said we had to meet each other. So it turns out that Melissa, begrudgingly, not because we thought we were horrible people, but we were not chasing.
Right.
So we were not, we went to coffee with each other just so we could go back to the friend and say, oh, such a nice person. Thank you.
Right.
But then here's what happened is when we met, it was like, I was open and ready and was like, oh my gosh, this person is someone that really, really fits who I'm looking for. And of course, there was more to getting to know her, but the more we got to know each other, the more everything came together. So the process of that was releasing, defining, and then I think pursuing is different than chasing. If that can relate, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because when I'm chasing, it's purely for self-gratification.
I'm trying to get something.
Yes. But when I'm pursuing, it is almost this idea of I need to of understanding, of discovery, of openness, of let's see where this goes. And that's the way that went. And so fun story is Melissa and I went on a vacation last March to Mexico. And we're on the airplane and I'm going through my phone files, getting rid of junk. And I ran across the document that was my perfect partner.
Oh.
And I read it for the first time, and it had been like 2 years. And I mean, I am over there. I was actually tears in my eyes going,
on the
oh
airplane.
my gosh, this really worked, because then I looked at her and I go, this is her. All 4'12" of her, I mean, and it was just like unbelievable. So yeah, there's probably more we could talk about, Andrew, but I say those are the main 3 things that I've done and still try to do.
So there's the release.
Yes.
And so much there.
Yes.
What I've seen from you and what I hear you saying is releasing of expectations.
Very much so.
Releasing of beliefs that don't serve you.
Yes.
Of conditioning, conditioned patterns.
Yes.
And releasing of emotions.
Yes.
Right? That aren't necessary. And then after release, there's a redefinition.
Yep.
I think one of the challenges for those that I have coached is they try to define things without doing the release work first.
Oh, I agreed.
Most people sit down with a coach and the coach will say, tell me what you want. Let me help you define what you want. But if we haven't released the things that aren't serving us, then that defining process is actually not serving them. And they get really confused.
It's another form of chasing.
It is.
Yeah.
And then I find that they will either give up on the coach.
Yeah.
Because they believe that that coach isn't good enough, or they will give up on themselves because they believe that there's something inherently wrong with them.
Yeah, exactly. I've lived that life. I get it. Yeah,
so we have to do the release work first. And then, okay, now that we have this beautiful blank canvas, let's redefine whether it's the relationship or the career or the family or whatever that might be. Let's define now with this beautiful blank canvas. And then let's pursue.
Yeah.
I love that word pursue. In fact, I'm going to do some research. I love etymology, right? The study of words. I'm going to do some research on that word because I think of a pursuit as almost quiet.
Yeah.
It's purposeful. I think of
very much so.
A good friend of ours, Greg, who's a bow hunter, and even sitting, waiting, and drawing something to you is a form of pursuing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So different.
Yeah.
So where would you say that the aspect of patience and just waiting and attracting, where does that come in this idea of do not chase?
For me, you're talking about the hardest part.
Okay. And I think that's true for most people.
Yeah.
You're not special.
Oh, thank you. I don't think I am.
Many of us
But
struggle.
oh my gosh, that's the hardest part for me.
What makes it, what for you, and what makes it hard?
Well, some of us, what we've kind of already discussed is having based my value for so long on action, activity, doing things, to not do something feels like, is like I'm doing nothing to help, nothing to make it happen, nothing, that my not doing something is actually going to keep me from instead of bring me to.
So you and I have strong roots in the Western Judeo-Christian world.
Yes.
I mean, you pastored for all those years. I was a full-time seminary teacher.
Yes.
What part, and I'm not blaming, but I mean, with good intent, what part do you think that our Judeo-Christian roots play in this struggle to patiently wait and attract versus chasing and doing and making it happen?
Well, 100%.
100%.
I
mean, Jesus said, be doers of the word. Right. Not hearers only, but I think sometimes we take things on a pendulum. We go really far and thinking like,
Well, it's from, there is no doubt that in going through preparation to be a pastor, kind of like you went through preparation as well, right? there was a lot of teaching, which I now refer to as programming.
Okay.
Okay. And it's because the teaching that I was given really had very little to do with a person's well-being, with a person's soul, just their spirit and soul of them coming in touch with the divine. It had
Right.
more to do with making sure that we were collecting money, we were counting wins, and a win would be someone went to the altar, someone prayed a prayer, someone got baptized,
Yeah.
And so as a pastor, the opportunities and the important times to report were never on, tell me about something magical. In fact, we couldn't even say magic. So
Yeah.
but I think we align on that.
Something
Something magical and
miraculous.
miraculous. What
Yeah.
happened? What's gone on that has like a thumbprint of God on it in your church? I mean, that rarely happened. Instead, it was, how are the offerings? How many people accepted the Lord? So what happened in the process of that for me was I became a leader of doers
Yeah.
instead of a leader of beers,
Yes.
And so, and if I wasn't doing though, and not that I considered pastor 100% a job, but it was a vocation.
Right.
If I wasn't a doer though, as a pastor, I would have been fired as a pastor. So, and there's the whole system runs on doing.
Right. And I think just Western culture, I
Yeah.
think that's similar.
Yeah, I
And
think same thing. Agreed.
one of the big transitions that I made this year was blocking 150 free days with zero work on my calendar.
Good job.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm right on track.
Nice.
And I give myself permission to not do anything. And if I do, I don't get to count it as a free day. If I do anything work related.
Okay.
So I don't do anything.
Yeah.
And I believe we have, a juxtaposition of be doers of the word, not hearers only. And then we have be still and know. Be still and know. And I don't think it's either or, right? Just like I wrote my book, Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow.
Right.
We need both. And when we get too fixated on one or the other,
right,
it's not just like out of balance. It's like we completely break the balance.
Yeah, it becomes a very broken system with broken people.
Absolutely. And so if someone's listening today and they're like, oh my gosh, I needed this. This is exactly where I'm at in my life. As a coach, what would you want them to know? If they didn't hear anything else, what would you want them to know and take away with them from this concept that we've been unpacking today? Just one thing. And I know that
there's so many, but
there's so many.
I can speak at it for what became most important for me. The thing that I needed to hear over and over again. When you're in a doing-based system, a performance-based system, then you've now put all of your value, all of your achievement on doing. Okay, so still to this day, I could not yet do. I aspire to have 150 free days on my calendar. Okay, because I am in complete alignment that that's a thing we should all do.
And I will help you with that.
Please.
Yes.
And but if I go through a single day, like yesterday, Melissa and I spent the day together because we both love football. Okay, so she loves horrible teams, but we both love football. Okay, so we usually watch each other's teams and just enjoy the day.
Yeah.
And the struggle that is for me, and it's because I'm not doing things that feed into the progress of future plans or business that's coming up. And so I found myself going to our home office. I'm going to work on the schedule for the week, and do that and stuff. So the one thing that I am still learning is to have grace for myself. Because the truth is for anyone who is stuck in a doing cycle, there's no greater critic. There's no greater, imposter or that voice in your head. There's nothing worse than yourself to yourself. And so I'm learning to give myself grace to just be, because there's a part of me that just wants to rebel against that.
I am so grateful you shared that. I actually had a very sacred experience with my brother last night. He came to my home, and that was some of the counsel that I received as well, which is line upon line, precept upon precept.
Mm-hmm.
Just give yourself grace.
Yeah.
This is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And as you continue, I love these 3 words. I'm going to use these. You and I are going to be preaching and teaching this forever,
Yeah.
I think. If we just allow ourselves to release that pressure,
Yep.
those expectations, redefine where we're at and where we're going, and then pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
Pursue it with a passion, with purpose, and grace
Mm-hmm.
is the key.
Yeah, very much so.
Chris, thank you so much. What a blessing it was to have you pour into us today. I appreciate your friendship. I learned from you.
Oh.
And I am grateful for what you have poured into our listeners.
Oh, well, thank you, Andrew. I mean, I have thoroughly enjoyed our reconnecting and am so beyond appreciative. Sometimes there's no words for things. And the amount of freedom and grace that I've experienced in these last few months as we've reconnected has been absolutely life-changing. So,
well, you deserve it, and so do they.
Thank you.